Director, Professor Devika P. Madali, and my personal behalf, I welcome you all to this exciting webinar on open research data management. Thanks in part to the generous funding support from the DataCite, a global leader in open research data infrastructure. We are grateful for their commitment to promoting open research data management and facilitating global collaboration in research community. See, of today's webinar is on optimizing research outcomes through effective data management approaches, in which we are going to cover many important aspects of open research data management, including data sharing policies, data management plan, metadata standards, persistent identifier, and best practices for data stewardship. Uh, I would like to request Mr. Dinesh Ranjan Pradhan, who is scientist D at Infonet Center and looking after various projects like eSu, Sindhu, Analyst, Indicate, etc. to start the session. He will be presenting on introduction to open research data management. Now I request Mr. Dinesh to start this session. Over to you, Mr. Dinesh.
This is the first lecture in the today's session, and I'll be talking about the basics of open science and research data. So in this session, we'll be talking about what is research data and what are the different type of research data that are available, and what is open data and open science, and the one more specific initiative like Plan S, which is specifically aligned to making open access research and open science available to everybody. And what is open research data. So also we'll discuss about what is research data management, how to manage the research data and the life cycle, and verification of research data means how to make your research data available, easily findable and available to everybody. And some basic differences about what is why research data is important, and what is the difference between institutional repository and a data repository, and some examples of different research data repositories. So firstly, let us discuss about what is a research data. So basically, research data is the data that is produced when you undertake a research and you collect some data about something, or you take some observation, or you do something for the analysis of your research paper or research proposal. So research data can be generated in different purposes, different processes. So we'll discuss about what are the different type of research data in the type of research data section. So what are the different type of research data? So once based on the different type of research carried out in different institutions, or different persons are carrying, like someone is doing a research in science and technology, someone is doing a research in engineering, someone is doing a research in social science. So based on the subject area, there are different type of research data are available. Like specifically, we'll talk about social science research. So we'll talk about the first one is the observational type of data. So where the data is captured on the real-time basis. Like when we talk about the data that are coming from different type of sensors or survey data or different sample data. So those are basically based on some observation, either directly or through a device or something. What is observed. So those are categorized as observational data. Then there is a category about the experimental data. So experimental data is like you do some research in a lab equipment, and the equipment that produces some data. So those are basically called the experimental data, like the gene sequence or chromatographs or other kind of data. So next is the simulation data, when that is generated based on some test models. So those are like climate models or economic models. Those are called as simulation data. Then another category of data is the derived or compiled data. So like the text and data mining case or some compiled database, based on that we derive some from some primary data we derive another kind of data. So those are basically derived or compiled research data. And there is like the reference or canonical data. So that is some the most probably the published and curated data. So, for example, the sequence of data banks or chemical structures or any geospatial data portal. So those are basically categorized as reference and canonical data. Okay. Now, if we talk about now, these are basically the different type of data based on the type of research you do. So when you talk about the management of research data, so we just need to classify those data so that uh, we can give proper kind of metadata to different type of data. So based on so these are some methods based on which generally the research data is classified. First is the method, like uh, in which method the data is generated: experimental, observational, or simulation, or derived data or compiled data. So another classification methodology is based on the format. Means your data is available in which format, whether it is available in a spreadsheet or it's available in a database, or it's a kind of image data. You have taken some images and based on those images you are analyzing the data. So that is basically the format of data. So why this classification is required? Because based on the different type of format of data, your data repository should support those kind of specifically managing those specific data sets. So that's why we should know what are the different classification of different type of data available. So another is classification category is the content, based on like the what is the content available in the data, whether it's a numerical data or it's a textual data or it's a audiovisual data. Another classification category is the uh, nature of data, like whether it's a born digital or it's digitized from something that is available, like something like the manuscript or those kind of things. Based on that, you have digitized it, or something that is born digital. Then another classification category is the source, that is whether it's a primary data, means it's directly generated, or it's a secondary data, means based on some data it is created. And whether another classification category is the processing of data, like whatever the data that you are storing in the repository or submitting in any research paper, whether it's the raw data or it's something that you have processed, you have taken some open data and you have processed and created a new data set. So that is based on the processing methodology, whether it's a raw data or processed. So now these are basically different types of research data classification, and based on the type or based on how it was generated. Next, we talk about the when we talk about the data, we talk about open data and open science. Why? Because this is what the we are talking about making the data for reuse purposes. So what is basically open data? So a data is open data when it's open for everybody. Uh, so when the data is open for everybody, free to use and reuse and redistribute without any technical or legal or social restrictions. And so that is called the open data. And the open data, it should be always a machine readable data, and it should be accessible in multiple formats, and it should be free from any technological restrictions, so that like it should work only specific proprietary kind of softwares of those kind of data. So it should not be, when you are talking some open data, it should always be uh, in some technology that should be available free of cost or those kind of things. So Another benefit of open data is that it gives a trust to the open science movement in different ways, uh, like through this open making your data open, you are basically preventing a duplication of similar kind of data sets across different organizations. Like if you talk about the astronomy and astrophysics, something is done by NASA or ISRO. Those are available in open, uh, and it's available to everybody. So someone from another country, they can collaborate on the same data, and they don't have to spend lots of money for creating the similar kind of data. Yeah. So, and open science is basically it refers to the to the practice of making the scientific research and the data and findings accessible everyone through open platforms, so that it can be shared with everybody, and everyone many people can collaborate through the open data and open research findings. So now, when you talk about open science and open data, there is a initiative named PLAN-S, that is a coalition of different national research funding agencies from 12 European countries. So it was basically started in 2008. So basically, it's the plan is basically an initiative for open access publishing and open access sciences. So with these different national research funding agencies, they have spending huge amount of money on doing research, and the funding is from the government agencies. So that's why they have collaborated to make all the research that are already funded by big money, make those research openly available. So basically, the PLAN-S initiative is for this. The main objective of this plan is to make research available openly. So they have given a 10 principle for making the research funding available openly. So first one is that whenever a author's making any research, they should retain their copyright on their publication, and it can be published through different open licenses, so that anyone who is doing the research from their publicly funded money, so that should be free for everybody to read and uh, share. And another second one is that the funders, they should have the specific robust criteria for compliant to open access journals and open access platforms. Then the funders should also provide incentive for creation of similar kind of open access journals, and making platforms available, so that the researchers who are getting the fund from these funding bodies, they can make this platform to use these platforms to share their open access research or open access research data. And another important aspect is that there are publication fees when you talk about the open access journal article. So basically, there is a APC charge is available, that has to be paid to the publishers for making your research paper available in gold open access journals. So that should be covered by the fund. So they have a plan that it should not be covered by any individual. It should be covered by the funder or whatever the institute, and the researchers should not pay for those kind of fees. And so based on that only, another principle is that the publication fees should be standardized, and it should be capped, so that there should not be much spending on just publishing the content, publishing the research output, and more spending should be on the actual research being done. So another next principle is that the universities or research organization or library, they should align their policies and strategies, so that they can promote this kind of open access principles. And there is also a principle for making books and monographs available in open access model also, and creating hybrid open access journal. So those kind of like some journals who are hybrid open access journals, they should be also encouraged to make their journals fully open access, uh, compliant journals. And also the members of this coalition, they can have some open data based on which they can also track the open access output and track their research output based on whatever the funding they are providing. And another is the open archives and repository for acknowledgement of their importance. So now, so that is basically the global open access initiative, and also there are different other initiatives are taken up by different countries also. And if we'll talk about India, specifically in case of data sharing policy, we have in 2012 we have the National Data Sharing and Accessibility Policy. So that has been created to promote the data sharing and enable access of government of India own data for in open domain. So based on this model only, if we are aware about this data.gov.in, so those kind of initiatives have come. So that policy is specifically for different public funding agencies. And so now, so those are basically a few policies that are available for making the data open and promoting open research data. Okay, so now let's talk about what is open research data. So open research data is basically also called the open scientific data, and it's basically focused on publishing the whatever the observation or results that are carried out in scientific activities that should be available for anyone to reuse and reanalyze. Like you have done some research to any experiment, and all those data that you have generated through that experiment methodology, so that should be available in the open domain, so that anyone can reuse the same data and they don't have to conduct similar experiment. So basically there is another aspect of this also. So through this making your data open, so it allows everybody to verify whatever you have claimed in your scientific paper or in your scientific research report or anything. So so it's also kind of a process where you can verify, someone else can re-verify whatever you are claiming, and it can be more authoritative of whatever you are publishing. Also, this kind of through this kind of initiative, others can also reuse the same data that you have generated, and they can give a different perspective about whatever you have published. So what are the major benefits of open data? So when we talk about the benefit of open data, basically, so these are few points like transparency. Means when we talk about making our data open, so it makes it becomes transparent for everybody, so that everyone can know what is based on which data you are giving the opinion or giving something. And another aspect is that innovation. So when something is so when the data is available, and the similar data can be used by different people who may not be expert or may not have the time to create new data, they can just revisit those kind of data, and they can develop new things or services or solution based on that same data without wasting their time on the creating similar data once again. Another aspect is that economic growth, like it can help in growth by economic growth of the organizers of the country by giving the opportunities for different entrepreneurship and driving efficiencies and in public and private sectors. And there is accountability. So as I said earlier, so once your data is open, so so it's a accountability that based on the same data, anyone can question you if something is wrong in the procedure or something. So that's why it creates a accountability. And another aspect is the collaboration. So once the open data is available, many people can collaborate on the same data, and they can share their experience and they can collaboratively they can resolve complex problems also. So next is the empowerment. So it empowers everybody, whoever is taking part in the process of decision making and research and analysis. So when the data is open, researchers can analyze the same thing. So this in different kind of fields, they can give suggestions that what are the lacking things and what need to be enhanced. And the public service and improvement. So accessibility of data can also help in improving the public services also. So now let's talk about what is research data management. So basically, research data management is the management of, of the research data that involves basically the organization, documentation, storage, preservation of all the data that is associated with the researchers. Okay. So the data can be we have discussed in the classification of data. The data can be any type of data, whether it can be any quantitative data or any documentation of the data, or it can be in the form of images, videos, or audios. So how to manage this different kind of the data that is available as a research data. So so there is a research data lifecycle management where these are the few steps that are involved in managing the research data lifecycle. So it will be in detail. In the next session it will be covered. So first is the choosing the file format and all those things. Then organizing and naming the file conventions. What are the different versions of the same document available, and what are the documentation available for that? Means whatever the research data is available, how to reuse that, and based on what this data is generated. So those kind of documentation has to be managed in the research data repository. And access control and security. If there is some sensitive information is available, or it should be restricted to some people, then you should have effective management of access control of whatever data you are storing in a research data repository. And you should be taking backup and storage, regularly backup and storage of the data. So these are this step will be covered in detail in the next session. So why it is important to have this research data? We already have discussed about these steps. This is specifically for when we are doing managing a research data repository. We should ensure the quality of the research data what we are repositorying in our research data repository. It may not be that the data will be that the data should be error-free and it should be accurate, and all the details should be mentioned in the repository, like documentation and all those information should be available, or whatever the data deposited in the repository, what are the other software required to read the data. So those kind of quality check we should ensure, and those should be mentioned in the research data repository so that someone can reuse that. Next is the reproducibility and transparency. So this basically allow other research to replicate the study and verify its finding. So and it enhances the credibility and trustworthiness of whatever you have on whatever your research you have done. Then I like the compliance and ethical consideration. So you should when you are submitting some research data into a research data repository, you should take care about what are the ethics that are or any guidelines available for that specific kind of data, like if the data is copyrighted or not, whether if you are sharing the data, whether it is related to anyone, whether it is infringing into anyone's privacy policy. So those kind of data security, data privacy about the data. So those things you should consider that whatever that data you are submitting in a research data repository in open mode, that should be free from this kind of uh, uh, issues. And another aspect is the efficient data retrieval and analysis. Means when the research data is available in your repository, it should be easily findable and accessible. So for that, you should focus on providing the proper metadata to the repository data, and also you should note that whatever the repository data, they have contained the sufficient sufficient information about the data, how to reuse the data, or documentation about the data, so that someone can reuse those data. And data security and protection. So this should, like I said, so you should the repository should take care of this kind of things. And another aspect is the long-term preservation and access. So it is an important aspect in any repository, whether it's a data repository or any institutional repository. So when you are maintaining a repository, you should always take care of the preservation and access for in future, so that it should be available for a longer period. So if there is any technical changes, the software should take care of those, or the hardware that you are using, those should take care of upgrading those hardware or software, so that it should be reusable in the long term future. Now, another principle of open data is the verification of research data. So verification is basically that the data should be findable. Means you should have proper information about the data, and the metadata should be easily available to everybody, so that there are like different search engines, and they can easily index those content, and you should have persistent identifiers, so that anyone can link those through those identifier. Anyone can always come back to your repository. Another aspect is it should be accessible. Means it should be openly available in open access. And I have said third aspect is that the data should be interoperable. That means that it should be structured in such a format that anyone can use in different systems or different softwares. And fourth one is the reusable. So the data that you are saying, that data should be reusable, and someone else can reuse it by reading the documentation or whatever the annotation that you have mentioned. So these four aspects should be taken care of when you are implementing a research data repository. And if we talk about research data repository, it's basically about a data archive or a data repository where you manage specific aspects of the research data repository. So what are the desirable characteristics of research data repository? So it requires, if we talk about the organizational infrastructure, it should be free and easy to access. There should be clear guidelines available, and there should be clear policies, should be taken care of, predefined policies, and data retention policies. So these kind of policies should be in place when you are creating a data repository. And in the data repository for the digital object management, you should have proper persistent identifiers assigned either through DOI or different methodology available, like handle system or any other system. And this object should have been curated for quality purposes, and it should have some common format, so that it can be reusable by everybody. And you should take care of the provenance of the data submitted. And if we talk about the technology aspect, so the data repository should have proper authentication and security mechanism integrated, and it should have technical sustainability, like on the long term, whatever the software developed for managing this kind of repository, that should be sustainable in the long term, and you don't the software should be updated frequently. So a basic the difference between a data repository and institutional repository, like many libraries, the institutional libraries, they are having their own institutional repository. But when you talk about the why the research data repository is specifically created, because when you talk about institutional repository, it specifically talks about the scholarly output, like articles, thesis, or conference papers, or dissertation kind of thing is being uploaded in the institutional repository. And for those kind of thing, there are softwares like DSpace, ePrints, Fedora, and those kind of open source softwares are available. But if we talk about the research data repository, there are some specific kind of need is required, specific platforms are required for research data repository, because as we said, so generally in case of institutional repository, more of the document are textual documents only, but in case of a data repository, it may be in different type of format, and the size of the research data may be also very high, and also there needs a specific kind of metadata documentation is required. So that's why there are specific kind of repository softwares that are also available, like Seek and NADA and Dataverse. So these are few open source data repository softwares that are available, so which can be used for managing open research data repositories. So in nutshell, so when you are creating a research data repository, you should take care of the data preservation and data sharing policies, and you should create your own policies for managing the research data repository, and it should be aligned in accordance with different policies available by different funding agency. And basically this also helps in generating citations from other people who can cite reuse your data and cite those data. And you should take care of the data security and privacy policy. So now these are few examples of different data repository. One is the Fixer. You may have visited these websites, or you may have used in your everyday research purpose, Genedo and Triad. So these are basically the general purpose data repository where anyone can share their research data. So many of the people also submit their publications or articles also in these repositories. So these are some general purpose. There is no specific restriction on different type of data that you are submitting. And if we talk about this data specific repository, like the data.gov.in, that is specifically open government data of India, and there is a UK data service available for UK educational institution, and ICSSR data service that is maintained for the ICSSR and MOSPI data. And once there is another international initiative that is the Registry of Research Data Repository, re3data.org. So whenever someone establishes data repository, they should submit their information about their data repository in this registry, so that it should be easily findable and shareable by the as per their principal guidelines. So if you are setting up a research data repository, you should submit the links of your research data repository in this kind of global registries, so that everybody can find the repository and they can harvest the content from your repositories. So that's all. With this, I just end my session.
Has launched open data platform. Now I am moving to another presentation. Now I request Mr. Pallab Pradhan, who is a scientist C at Informate Center, and looking after various projects like NIRF, Vidwan, IRNS, and also looking after the publication of the Informate Center. He will be talking on data management plan. So without taking
As we saw from the presentation of my colleague Sri Dinesh Ranjan Pradhan, that he elaborated a lot of things like what is research data types, open data, the policies, fair policies, and DSAP, open science, RDM data, a lot of things. Right, so we has opened up a lot of concept or say aspects regarding data sharing, and all these things. So we'll be I'll in this my presentation I'll be talking systematically about all those few things that have been already been told and with some kind of validation. Okay. So basically, what is in my session, I'll be talking on what is data management plan and what are the benefits that we'll be having from a DMP or data management plan, the research data life cycle, then what are the key elements, the DMP tools that are available in open for to use, that then data access policy, what are the things, what are the parameters we need to consider while preparing a data access policy. As I said, the key elements, and that we'll be seeing some examples of data access policy in that part. So basically, a data access data management policy, which normally is being called as DMP, DMP plan or DMP like normally. So data management plan is a key element of a good data management in research, good data management practice in research. So basically, a data management plan is nothing but a formal document, that outlines how data will be handled throughout the life cycle of a research project. Right? It is kind of a blueprint or to proceed with the data in research project, whatever your research you will be pursuing, like you'll be conducting. So it's kind of a blueprint that you'll be proceeding, that the steps are being involved till the end of the research or while conducting research. So in a nutshell, in short, you can say it's a document that tells us that during our research project, what are the things we need to do, how to go about our research, how to go about our data, how to handle our data throughout that research project, starting from conceptualization to even after, or you can say till the end of the research. And after that also how you are going to reuse, because how you are going to share, how people are going to reuse, all these things you need to consider while preparing the data management. Okay. So data management plan, there are many aspects, as I said. So we'll be starting, but we need a data management plan, right? So we have been knowing there are many. Normally, what happens is funding agencies that provide such funds to proceed for our research. In many national agencies, there are many international agencies. So nowadays, all those agencies, starting from the international level, Trust, NIS, National Institute of Health, for Foundation, starting from that, our government, many agencies like DBT, Department of Biotechnology, CSR, all those they need many to fund you for your research work. They need you need to submit. To begin with, they need to submit a proposal, grant proposal, right? So what they are doing is they are asking that researchers must submit a data management plan as part of the research proposal to get the funding. So it's not at time of starting the research, but even at time of conceptualizing your research, you have to prepare the data management plan. And as I said, it's being mandated by all these funding agencies nowadays. So you need to submit that one. Then transparency and reproducibility. So basically, data management plans, define and dictate the terms and conditions under which your data will be accessible and understandable to each other, to other researchers, or to your next generation researcher, to your end users. So let's say if somebody wants to reproduce your research findings, or even they want to verify that what you have found, if your data would be openly available, because that's part of the data management plan. So if that would be available, so they can, use that, they can reproduce something from that database, and obviously they can verify whether your data is genuine, whether your research findings, research outputs, whatever you have conducted, the data is being utilized, that are actually, actual data or fake data. So that concept is already there, right? So that way, transparency of your data as well as your research can be measured. Then data sharing and reuse. So it's a very important factor nowadays. The main purpose, of government and all this whatever policies as we listened from in the previous session, that NDSAP is a data sharing, specifically focused what is there, national data sharing. So that is already so data sharing is the most important factor for any data management plan. So how your DMP should or must include that what are your plans, what are your future prospects, that how you are going to share your data with other researchers, and so that your research work can be accelerated or it can be reused by other people, right? And that's what that collaborative and interdisciplinary research will foster in that way. So as and normally we are saying like sharing is caring, so that if your data would be shared, people will get to use that, and they can do a lot many things like reproducible and all that. Which can be possible. Yeah. Then as we know that the next one is preservation of research output. So obviously that data, that how much time in a research work, how much time we put, how much time we put, how much efforts we put, right? So and to get the data, to generate the data for our research work, right? So it's not that money can buy anything, like no, it's intellectual asset that you cannot define or you cannot measure with the amount by like. So it's an intellectual asset. It's and when we listening, data is the new gold, data is the new fuel. So it should be preserved, and your data management plan must include what are the strategies you would be applying or deploying for that preservation of your research and data as well. Okay. Then compliance with the regulation. So your data should comply with regulations like how you are protecting IPR, intellectual property, by how you are anonymizing data of personal identification, so that people, your respondent, your from whom you have collected data or any other things, that data identifier should not be people or place or whatever variables should not be identifiable by other researchers. So that anonymization should be there. At the how we are following the funder policies. So these are the ethical and responsible conduct of research, and DMP, data management plans, help in that aspect as well. And risk mitigation is obviously there, because it's the hard work that you are going to have. The data is your hard work and a result of your hard work, right? So your is that from IT point of view specifically, if I would say, then while creating data or while conducting your research, obviously you need to plan that how you are going to secure your data, right? So what are the backup procedures you would be having? So DMP helps us to mitigate those things, risks associated with data loss or kind of hacking or data breaches. So obviously, as I said, it's must, or it should protect confidentiality and integrity of your research data. Then efficiency and cost effectiveness. So obviously, as I say, when you are providing a proper plan, then you must include that how you are going, you are having a plan before beginning your research. So in the process, you'll have the efficiency, and so that you can save your time, because you don't need to go back, because you have a full plan, the blueprint you have. So you don't need to, let's say something gone wrong in the process. So you don't need to re-prepare the things, because documents. So you just need to recollect and process the data. And so that DMP helps you to streamline the workflows of your data analysis and interpretation. So basically, these are the 7 factors that are very important factors that we need a data management plan. And apart from that, but the concept is here. What since the beginning, from the session of my colleague Dinesh, and in this 7 factors we talked about. So basically, the concept is to create a data management plan, and how we need to go. So it goes in online research data lifecycle. So basically, is it RDL, or you can say research data lifecycle, is a key concept, right? In the research data management plan is part of the RDM. So it is the series of stages, that your research data goes through before, during, and after the research project. Like this cycle involves, you can see, creating data, processing, analyzing. So all these things, this is called research data life cycle. So we'll be seeing one by one and the points that we would be having. So creating data, obviously the word, the term itself convey the meaning that creating the data. So at first we design the research and the process, then plan the data management, the format, the storage and everything. Then we go to different sources to locate whether we do have our any other sources that existing data is available or not. If it is not there, then we collect the data through different methods. Then we capture the data again, create the metadata part. This normally happens with all that so as to make our next generation user understand. Then we plan consent for sharing, right? Then we process. Once we have the data, then we process the data, right? So how you do like entering data or digitizing or translating, because your respondents, let's say normally what we get in through your respondents, if it is normally questionnaire, you can, so you won't get a proper format data. So you need to check, validate, and clean. You need to, as I said, anonymization is very much required. So you need to anonymize so that the respondents' details won't be verifiable with the users in your resource. And you need to archive the data. Then you need to manage and store all this process data. Then analyzing. So in this part, we'll interpret the data, the first and foremost work. So how we'll be going, like we'll be applying certain formulas, then we'll by applying certain kind of statistical methods to derive, the outcomes that we have to produce research output. Then we go with other publications, our publications, normally what we report or article or whatever that we do, our intent would be. So, and based on that research output, again, as I said, you will have publications. And after that, many times you would be having that prepared data for preservation, because many times many journals, publishers nowadays, they are asking that how you to submit the data also. So that way you need to plan that prepare data for preservation. Then preserving data. So here in this stage, the data should be prepared for preservation. So while preserving, you mean that we have to migrate the data to the best suitable format. And so while selecting the format, we have to describe this and stored in this way that it can be treated in a proper way. And by having proper backup and storing facilities, then as I said, creation of metadata in this part, then proper documentation and archiving the data. Then giving access to data. So here in the data management plan specifically, you need to specify that how you are going to distribute your data, how you are going to give access to your data. It may be openly or freely accessible data, or the mechanism that you will be control access or authorized access by login ID or kind of creation of user control mechanism that control access, control environment, or whether any ID card is needed to enter to the data store. It depends on your storage facilities, how you are going through a portal or a storage location that normally have data center. And any copyrights you are going to have, like it would be free or some kind of copyrights you are employing, who would be the owner, then you need to decide. And so further promote your data and promoting data sharing. Then reusing the data, that what you'll be doing is like in these steps, let's say your research is almost over now, whatever things you have done completely is over. So it is time to reuse the data. Like how you are going to do that. So reusing means following up your resource based on the same data. There may be an entirely new aspect based on already collected data. And there may be so there may be scrutinization of your findings, and obviously, so you should be confident that what are the scrutinizations will be coming, your reviews will be coming if you share the data. Before that also you can have. Then this same data, that whatever you have in the process of your research you have generated, the same data can be reused further for your next generation research, for assignments or exploring a new aspect of research, has already been told by Dinesh also in the previous session. So reusing facilitate those things, and obviously data sharing. So data management plan, the same, the aspects that I told in the part of the research data life cycle. These are all your data reuse and repurpose. You can say starting from this one, planning and design. So preparing a DMP plan, the first and foremost one. So identify the research objectives and data requirements. Then how you are going to collect your data, the proper selection of data collection methods. Then, as I said already, different methods that you are going to employ, so it maybe surveys, interviews, and then ensuring the collected data, ensuring data quality and validity for your research, anonymizations and other things you need to consider here in this part. Then data organization and documentation. Then creating a data management system, and you need to organize the data, storing data so that you can, analyze in the properly in the next phase. So your data analysis, how you are going to analyze your data by deploying different qualitative or quantitative techniques, the software tools you are going to use. Then same process is so data sharing and publication, data preservation and archiving, data reuse and repurpose. So whatever, as I said, in the process of research data life cycle, so you need to prepare your data management plan, research data management plan according to that. Okay. And apart from these points, you need to compliance with all these IPR legal aspects and your specifically the roles and responsibilities being a researchers, how you have to so those things you need to consider. So these are the data management tools, DMP tools, a site, you can say source that you can create. There's freely available tools you can, so by where you can create your own DMP data. So a lot many are available, but so you can go through all these sites also. You can explore and experience your own. You can use if you are new, and if you are experienced, then if you found something new sites or new source, then also you can explore. So I'll just show one DMP. It has already been open in my slide. This is, you can see, I've just created a National Research Data Repository and RDR in India in dmptool.org. The project details, just part of. So this is writing the plan, DMP plan, data management plan. So these are all the things you need to consider. As I said, data collection, documentation and metadata, ethics and legal compliance, storage and backup. So whatever I said in the process of research data life cycle, you need to field out, you need to plan accordingly. You can see all these aspects, how you are going to have data collection, right? What is the type of data? So this is specifically an example normally for dmptool.org, right? Many other tools, as I mentioned, many other tools are there. So you can explore that dmptool.org. This is the screenshot of the same. So again, after that, you need another policy. Normally, so many policies are involved in the process. So some people will be having data deposit policy specifically. Some would be having data access policy. Some would be saying data sharing policy. So it's kind of, you can say, let's say in broader term, you can say data management plan, how you are going to conduct in that. But later on, based on your research data that collected or the derived data, how we are going to share or all those. So specifically that one policy you can define like RDM policy for all these aspects that you can include. But if you're going for specifically, then you can have different policies or parts of sub policies. So an important one is data access policy. So again, it's a set of rules and guidelines that dictates how data can be accessed, used, and shared within an organization or among your other authorized parties, authorized users. So it defines the procedures and controls necessary to ensure that your sensitive or confidential information should be properly handled, as I said, and should be authors identifications or your respondent identification should be protected. Anonymization of data should be there, well, so that your respondent or any other persons, those who are involved in your resource, should not be verifiable by your next generation user or your end user. So the main point is that okay, of that data access policy. So here, many other key components are also there. As I said in the beginning, also access control mechanism, how you are going to do that. Then specify who would be accessing your data and under what type, like how much data they can access, if you have categories of data, then which category of data can be used by which category of users. So user authentication, rule-based access control, authorization, logins, all these things are on control mechanism so that you can have. Then data classifications. Then here you need to define the categories of or levels of data based on the sensitivity, based on the confidentiality, and actually determines the appropriate access or access control mechanism for the specific categories of data. So data may be, as I said in the previous slides, also that data may be openly available for public. It would be considered confidential. It would be restricted. So as for that, these are simultaneous can be done control mechanism and data classification control. Then how you are authenticating and authorizing to your users, that where the technology part comes into that, whether they would be having showing any government ID cards for authentication or normal access mechanism would be there to identify who would be the users, so that you can authorize actual users, so that your data will be accessed by authenticating users properly. Then data sharing and transfer. So here you need to specify how data would be shared and transferred between users, your departments, or external users, external parties. So whether encryption, because your data is, as I said, you a lot of efforts, you have a lot of time you have given, font is there, a font has been provided to you to conduct your research. So sometimes, let's say, many things would need to be considered. So how we are going the ways, whether your sharing will be there securely while file transfer protocols or any other agreements, you need to share your data with the third parties. So all these things you need to have. Then data usage policies. So this is specifically for the user end, that how user would be using your policies, whether they need to have, what do we say, citation or acknowledgement they would be providing. And before that, let's say it may also address like data retention, how much time you would be having the data, or when you would be going to disposals, what would be the embargoes for that one. So a lot of things, whether end user would be able to copy it, modify, or distribute it without proper authorization, without proper acknowledgement. All these things you need to consider in data usage policies, specifically for end user. Then monitoring and auditing, how we are going to, monitor that who are the people actually utilizing, how far your data are being utilized normally. So you can have involved login access events that the log can have. Then security assessment you can have, whether your resource are being not reached by any other suspicious activities. It's not hacked. So proper mechanism you need to have for protection of data. Okay. Then at the end you need to create training and awareness, because it's not that everybody will be knowing all this concept or all that. Also, you ensure that resources are aware of their responsibilities that regarding the data access and security, that how and what are the things they need to consider while accessing, while using their data that are available. So data access policy, I will be just showing one policies here in my here. So here you can see data deposit and access policy. So things are there. I can see a lot of things, data content coverage, data scopes and language kinds for research data, that categories, data selection for inclusion, version control. So these are the things you need to consider. This is, you can openly available data. I see this as a data access policy is there just for your brief knowledge that I have just shared it. So metadata part, what are the things you need to have, data submissions and conditions, data access like user community, access to database registration, search. So these are all points that I mentioned in my slides. So this one. So in that data access policy, you need to consider if you are going for your own preparation for your own data access management policy for your organization or institutions, or let's say to understand. So you can explore all these policies also. So this is, I end up my presentation here. Any questions they'll be talking at the end of the session itself, as I said by my colleague, Nitesh Kumar Pandya at the beginning. So over to you, Divyakant.
I would like to request Dr. Mitesh Kumar Pandya, who is working as scientist C in library science here. He is working on various projects like INCAT, NRDR, and many other projects. He will be talking on the importance of persistent identifier in research data management and overview of DataCite and its DataCite's role in providing PIDs. Now I would request Dr. Mitesh Kumar Pandya to start the session. Over to you, Dr. Mitesh.
Thank you, Devakant, for the introduction. I'll be talking about the connecting research and advancing knowledge, the information about persistent identifiers and how it is going to be useful. So basically, the slides are provided by Mr. Mohammed Mustafa. He is an employee with the DataCite. So these slides have been given to us for presentation so that we can make you understand how DataCite works and what are the advantages and features are available for selecting DataCite as one of the partners for choosing this DOIs. So let me start with it. So first, let us understand what is DataCite. So basically, the DataCite is a global community that shares the common interest. It helps people to understand what are the research outputs available in different format, and it allows them to put it in some platform so that it can be easily identified, located, shared, reuse, and get the citation at the end. So it is as a community, what DataCite does is it makes the research more effective with metadata that connects research output and resources from sample and images to the data and preprints. And this is a not-for-profit organization which is registered in the Germany in the year 2009. So what is the base for this? So it has the membership. It has around 3,000 plus repositories spread across 52 countries. It has allowed and it has given this 58 million DOIs, and 1,400 plus organizations are part of DataCite. Now, what is the type of research output? So the research output basically is generated while conducting research work. These are collections of associated workflows, software, images, and models. It also includes gray literature such as thesis, dissertation reports, unpublished conference papers, newsletters, preprints or journal articles. Okay, preprint journal articles, technical standards and specifications. These all are conducted known as a research outputs over and above what we are not knowing it. So this basically gray literature is also treated as a research output. Many times it is not accessible to outsider, but if it is accessible to outsider using different techniques, they will be able to get the understanding of what kind of research they have conducted and what kind of output they have generated. Okay, so basically this institutional repository and all, they are hosting primary publications, but they are not exposed to outsiders many times. So now that institution has to understand whether it is to be available in open domain or not. So basically the concept of open data is everything should be in open domain. On any fund, any public fund, using public fund, whatever output is generated, that has to be kept open. Okay, now what are the types of resources available in the DataCite? DataCite Fabrica is a platform which allows you to monitor everything. So it has around 1.6 million data sets, physical objects. These are the statistics which are available in the different resources. So they have around 1.1 billion journal articles. Okay, so these all are indexed and they have been given the DOIs. So using this DOI, you can assign. So there is people confused. What is the relation between Crossref and DataCite? So the Crossref basically provides DOI for the research papers that are indexed by Crossref, and these publications are published by many public publication houses. Whereas in case of DataCite, DataCite is providing DOIs for different types of even published or unpublished documents That is previously in my previous slide, I told that the gray literature also. So the for gray literature also, if it is published or unpublished, you will be able to get the DOI using DataCite. So these are some of the documentation document types for which you can assign the DOIs. Now DOI for the data set. So this is an example of the National Research Council of Thailand. So they have integrated DOI using DOI, this DataCite DOI, and this DOI is a permanent identifier which allows you to get the citation, and there are multiple uses of that. So for reports, there is a report is basically a gray literature which is not published. So NSU, National University of Singapore libraries, whatever reports they are publishing, they are assigning a DOI. And you can see here at the end, you can get the citation of a report also. If somebody wants to quote that research report in the research work, they can get the citation. They can, because it is a persistent identifier is assigned to that, they can always cite it. In case if it is not assigned, you have to cite it, but then there is no, you will not be getting credit in the form of citation. Now DOI for the thesis and dissertations. Many repositories, they consider DOI for thesis and dissertation. If you look at the example of Shodh Ganga, we don't take the DOI, but instead we have the handle which is attached with that. So it is also a persistent identifier. So for this doctoral thesis, what you can do is you can assign DOI the way it is assigned here. Now DOI for software. So the software code which you have created, you can preserve it, and you can preserve it in the data repository, and you can assign the permanent link that is known as a DOI to the software. To the images also, you can see here the figure number 1 is assigned a particular DOI, which is available in Zenodo. Now, what DOI helps us in? So the DOI helps us to improve the visibility and discoverability. So visibility means what work you have done. People will be able to look at this in area in which you are working, and discoverability means it is searchable across all platforms. Okay, now it enhances the accessibility of your research output, and it helps you to make your data compliant with the FAIR principles. So FAIR is basically, in previous lecture, my colleague Mr. Dinesh told that FAIR is basically a findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So if you look at this principle, that the DOI will help you to make it FAIR compliant data sets, and then people will be able to share across platform. They can access, they can reuse it, and they can once again host it on a platform which are available. It helps you to get the recognition beyond the journal output, what you are submitting as a research paper. It increases the citations. Nowadays, previously we have heard that only journal articles are getting citations. Now things are changed. The research data sets, what you are hosting on different platforms, they will also be getting citations. So the data sets, whatever you have during your research journey, whatever data sets you have collected, you can keep it on a secured platform, maybe open repository or maybe closed repository, and even if it is there, you will be able to get the citation in the form, in a different formats. So next is what you can do is you can increase the impact of your institution by getting the number of data sets are available on a particular repository. Then you can promote open research environment, which basically works with the FAIR principles. Now let us understand what are the persistent identifiers. So basically the persistent identifiers are the identifiers which are persistent in nature, and that will redirect you to the particular URL. Now you see, for example, here, this is the URL which is redirecting you to persistent ID is equal to so and so. So what happens, if somebody is clicking on this particular link, they will be redirected to the original source where the DOI is being assigned. And DOI is basically an Now we have different PIDs. PID means persistent identifiers. If you take the example of researcher, for researcher, you have the ORCID as a persistent identifier. For the research institutions, registry of research institution, research organizations is a persistent identifier. So Scopus ID for an institution. Okay, organization ID is there. So likewise, there is an organization called Registry of Research Organization Registry. So there you will be getting a particular ID for a research organization. So for example, if there is an institute called InflibNet, there is a registration number of InflibNet which remains as it is forever. Okay, now then there is another called PIDs for different types of output, research output that includes. So basically, you will be here to make out that it is for the DRIAD. So DRIAD is once again a data repository. Okay. Now find and connect research. So what happens? You have this. All things should be interrelated. So for works, I mean to say, whatever research output you have generated, it may be data set, it may be journal article, it may be conference paper, whatever may be. So it is treated as a work. So for work, there are options, two options, data site and Crossref. For people, means researcher, you have the option of ORCID ID. For organization, you have the option of ROR. So if you register this, then these all are interlinked. Okay, so this is a PID graph generated on 7th March 2023. For data sets, you can see 1.3 million are there, organizations, software, these all are interrelated. Okay, so if somebody is looking for the works, you can approach data site or Crossref for DOI. And this PID for people or researcher, it is free of cost. Everybody, all researchers can create their ORCID ID. Now finding out a data set. So this is a platform which is known as a DataSite Commons. All the data sets that are submitted in particular data repository and DOI is assigned. So now if you look at this, you can see here, this is the data set which was published in the year 2012 and it has received one citation. So this is the citation received by this particular data set. Okay, where it is hosted? It is hosted in the DRIAD repository. Okay, and it is indexed in the DRIAD and the DOI is generated from the data site. So how many times it is downloaded, all these statistics you can get it. Bring citations to the surface. What is the citation? How it works? What kind of things are available? How many citations you have received for a particular thing? All things you can see it here. Now this helps in getting increase your impact, research impact in the given field. Use. Now you see here, the other identifiers is given GRID, Crossref funder ID, and ISID. So this is the organization which is known as a World Agroforestry Center, and this is the ROR ID, Institutional Registration ID. How many works are submitted? Total 29 sites are there, and total 262 downloads are there. So you see here, this data is fetched from the ROR. Okay, now next is data set member. Sorry, there was some interruption. I'm sure the slide is visible. Okay, now how you can
Yes,
become
it's
a
not
data
visible.
science member?
Now with this slide is visible.
Okay, there was some problem of connection. Okay, now let us understand what is the direct membership first. So DataSite offers direct membership to the repository. Okay, so this type of members are getting, you can just pay the fees and become the member. And then there is a specific slot which will allow you to integrate your things, and then it will be, okay, I think Hitesh will be covering this in the next session. So now there is a consortium. Okay, so DataSite consortium is there. So in the consortium, fairly you will be getting less price for this one. See, anything, it is a not-for-profit organization, but to make it functioning for their survival, some membership fees they are charging, and they are also charging some DOI per DOI. They're charging some fees. So that fees related information is available at this URL datasite.org fee model for consortium fee as well as direct member fees. Okay, now in case if you want to get the membership inquiry, you can send email to info@datasite.org, or you can fill in the details. They will get back to you. You can fill in the details at datasite.org/membership inquiry. Now, how you can register for a DOI? You can create and manage all DOIs. There is a specific platform which is available, which is known as a DataSite Fabrica, using which you can integrate all your DOIs, means the DOI server with the data repository. That manual and everything is available there. It is hardly a day job. Once you integrate, it will be integrated, and then the moment you upload new data set, automatically the DOI will be assigned to the data set. Okay, now this DOI Fabrica interface is available, and what it does is it helps us to manage and find all DOIs and related metadata. It allows you to maintain the statistics of DOI, how many times it is retrieved, how many times it is downloaded, how many times it is viewed. Then it will also track the citations. It will also check the link and maintain the information of our organization. How you can join the community? See, there are 3,000 plus repositories available at spread across different countries, and you see here 34% government organizations are there. 34 government organizations are there, and 474 institutional organizations are there. 151 multidisciplinary organizations are available there as a member. Now, this is just a glimpse of this data repository software in which this DOI is integrated. You can see here DSpace is, other repositories are 100, DSpace is 61, OJ is 59, Dataverse 35, Invenio 22, eBreeds 13. So this DOI Fabrica is compliant with DataSet DOI Fabrica is compliant with almost all the repositories that are created with a standardized this one. So you can integrate DataSet DOI with any of the repositories that you are looking for and presently available, and most of the people are using well-known repositories. Now, this is the DataSite community. In case you have any problem, you will be able to get in touch with DataSite community. They will be able to help you in conducting regional workshops. They will be able to help you in identify the proper metadata sets for your data sets. Then there are always meeting. Everybody is in. All the members are invited to participate in the meeting, so that you can get the idea latest tools and techniques they are implementing. And then in case if you are not able to attend, they give in-person training also, and that all things are covered within the fees what they are charging. So we'll be able to understand how entire DOI model DOI is functioning. They will be also conducting webinars very frequently, so that you can keep yourself updated with the how data site works for the betterment of research data or population of open science and open research data. Okay, so that's all about data site. So
the NRDR presentation, I would like to request my colleague, Mr. Hitesh Kumar Solanki, for presenting on NRDR, National Research Data Repository, which we are working on. First of all, I want to introduce him. He is engaged with many projects. Right now, he's working with e-resource division. He is also involved in NRDR project and many other technical technical part of the projects. He is also supporting technically for almost most of the projects. Now, I would request him to start the session. Over to you, Mr. Hitesh.
Thank you, Divekant, and good afternoon to one and all present here. As discussed in previous 3 sessions related to research data management plant and persistent identifier to be assigned for each data sets in previous session. Now quickly let us move. Okay, where you can preserve. I think in chat box also somebody asked how can I share the data set and on data sites. So let us as such no central repository is available in India to host such kinds of data set which is contributed by your faculty member or researcher for your institute. So InfluMNet has taken initiative to preserve research data set or academic data sets at a national level platform, which is would be known as a National Research Data Repository. And let us quickly understand the workflow and policy framework for avail these services. So National Research Data Repository is one central platform where any institute researcher or faculty member can share their data in an open access mode. So for that we have defined one framework. So naturally there would be the 2 types of stakeholder would be available for this platform. One is institute and second one is end user, just like researcher, faculty member, PhD scholar, or any other means students like that. So to avail these services, each institute should have their own data management plan for data preservation. And once it will be available with that institute may join these services by signing MOU with InfluMNet Center, and InfluMNet Center will provide the admin credential for that single point of contact person, and institute coordinator will deposit the data set which is contributed by their institute faculty members and researchers to the NRDR portal. Once it is deposited on the portal, it will be available in an open access mode to the other researchers from other institute as well as across the India, even we can say across the globe. Then researcher or any faculty member or any end user can find out their relevant data sets based on their research objective or scope of the research. They can search and browse the data set which is available in an NRDR portal. They can explore the metadata, which kinds of methods has been used to collect this data, what is the scope, and that would be available under metadata part. So just like study description, data set description, variable description would be available under. So any researcher can explore and identify the relevant data sets. After that, the end user will be able to access and download in a various formats, and they can reuse the data set and share to the community for that. Even we integrated various data visualization tools along with data sets on this NRDR portal. So any user can use or find out the beautiful insights by using on-the-fly data visualization tool. So this would be the basic features which is required for end user as well as institute coordinator, which would be covered by our NRDR team on NRDR portal. So let us quickly understand how your whatever data set deposited by institute coordinate, how it will be organized. So it would be organized in a collection. Collection is nothing but kind of one data set, and we are using Dataverse software, which is open source and developed by Harvard University. And we have customized the Dataverse software as per our requirement. And whatever data sets would be submitted by institute coordinator, that would be grouped in a one collection. We can say a Dataverse also. Under parent Dataverse, you can create n number of sub Dataverse as per your requirement, just like one Dataverse. For example, we can say one Dataverse, sub Dataverse would be assigned to the one department. Second Dataverse would be assigned to the second. Such a way we can or institute coordinator manage their data sets in parent Dataverse, which is assigned by Infobase Center to the institute. Now let us understand key features of NRDR for institute coordinator. So which are the features would be available for institute coordinator? So whatever data set, parent data set, Dataverse would be assigned to the institute coordinator. Under that, institute coordinator will be able to customize their homepage of parent Dataverse along with institute logo or brief details and achievements and number of publication statistics like information would be updated on that homepage of your parent Dataverse. Under that, you can create n number of Dataverse for just like as I given illustration for each department, you may create a separate sub collection under assigned parent Dataverse. Under that, you institute coordinator may be able to deposit data set, and before depositing data set, the institute coordinator need to be deposit the metadata about that particular data set, and not only metadata, he or she will be able to deposit various supporting documents, just like questionnaire, technical reports, means whatever that would be available under along with the metadata, and he or she can be able to deposit under that. And once not only any specific file, our NRDR portal support various kinds of files, just like CSV, DSV, or various statistical software supported, just like Stata, SPSS, and Python. Many more formats of dataset would be deposited under this portal. And institute coordinator may be able to get the usage report of each data set in a counter format. So it will be which data set has been downloaded, how many number of times. So you may find out all these features for institute coordinator under this. Let us quickly understand all these features by using graphical user interface. Once you land the home page of the NRDR portal, you will have how many number of data sets are available and how many times it is downloaded would be, that statistics would be available under that, and how many database has been created under this portal. If you would like to create any new database under assigned parent Dataverse or any dataset you would like to deposit, you just click any one of the button, it will be redirected to login. Here we have integrated by default native username and password is already available with this software, but apart from this, we have integrated login via Google, login via Orchid, as well as institutional login, just like Sibboleth based single sign-on mechanism is also implemented under this. So once you logged in into by using your password credential, you will have whatever data sets you have deposited, list of Dataverse or data sets would be available under that. As in first data set, with the support of DataSite, we have integrated unique persistent identifier for each data sets, and we have integrated with this prefix NRDR, just like TOI.org 10.82400 NRDR, and this would be the remain persistent for each data sets. So we have integrated with the supports of DataSites for whatever data set going to be deposited under this. Under that, administrator or institute coder will have a rights to publish that data set, make a draft, or which role need to be assigned for each data. All the privileges would be available with the an institutional coordinator. Once you would like to create any sub dataverse, you may create under after logging. So you need to give a name of the dataverse, which you may give us some identifier for that sub dataverse, which types of category of dataverse you would like to create, who would be the contact person or for this dataverse, that affiliation and file need to be mentioned or entered in this web form. Once not only this basic information of your data, but which kinds of metadata field you would like or schemes you would like to. Suppose you would like to create that particular sub database for social science, and you may choose whatever listed in this sense of citation metadata, geospatial, social science, and humanities, so astronomy. Which scheme you would like to use, you may use or opt at the time of creation of sub database. Apart from this, not only scheme, out of whatever default number of field would be available in that particular schemes, out of that which field you would like to select, that level customization also would be available with the institutional coordinator. Even which field you would like to set in a search or browse, that also you can opt this at the time of creation of sub dataverse. And once it is created, you can deposit the data set under that newly created dataverse. While depositing the data sets, you need to mention the title of the data set, who are the contributor, just like author. So n number of author would be there. You may enter the contributor with the name, affiliation, identifier scheme, just like a identifier of author. Means you may choose under from this, just like author, for author identifier scheme, Scopus, ORCID, or any. And whatever, if you choose ORCID, you need to mention in identifier text box ORCID ID of that particular authors. So apart from this, who would be the contact person for that data set? Description about data set, under which subject category it falls, data set falls into which category, that need to be mentioned in a predefined subject classification scheme. Even keywords and any publications which is published for by using this data, that citation information of that publication also you can link here in a citation box. Even you can mention the full text URL under this URL. So any researcher will access your data set along with which kinds of publication you have made it. So they can easily link with your data set and publication. So that kinds of linking of full text and data set also would be available. And that would be done at the time of deposition of data set on an NRDR. So not only this metadata, but at the time of uploading file, n number of file you can upload in this file section of your data sets. Once it is uploaded and in a various supported file format, you may, once it is deposited in an NRDR portal, it will be accessible by any researcher. So now quickly understand the key features, major key features available for researcher. So once it is data set deposited by any institute, it will be available to the researcher. They can find out based on subject or keyword based search and browse mechanism and identify the relevant data sets. Filter mechanism is also implemented, just like dataverse category, whether it is journal dataverse, institutional dataverse, or any other. Author name, subject, keyword, date, and publication year. Based on that, also filter mechanism can be applied to identify the relevant data set for your research. Okay. In the end, once it is identified, you may explore the metadata and export the data set along with the metadata. Study description, just like which type of study for or which type of sampling method has been used to collect the data, which types or how many number of variables are available, how many number of tables are available for the data set, for each variable, which types of data or whether it is numeric or character, that all the description would be available on a metadata part. Even as I informed you, data viewer and data visualization tools has been integrated. So user without having technical knowledge, they can directly explore the insights which is available in the data sets. And single sign-on mechanism implemented, and we have assigned portal will assign a unique persistent identifier for each data set. So you may refer any without you may refer the data set by using URL, persistent URL for each data set. So let us quickly understand all the features which will be available on a graphical user interface. So on homepage of NRDR itself, you will have a search box where you can type any keyword or subject. You will subject, keyword, title, author, you will get a relevant data sets as per your requirement. Even on homepage of NRDR, subject-wise classification for each data sets are available. Okay, how many number of data sets are available for particular subjects that you can directly redirect it to that particular list of subjects data sets. Even whatever recent updates are available in a specific database or other dataverse or any other dataverse, that also would be available on a homepage. Even statistics, just like how many total number of data sets, how many total number of data set deposited, harvested, how many times it is downloaded. So in the last 30 days or last means all activities can be carried out on a homepage of the NRDR portal. So once you search by using any keyword or subject, you will have a list of data bars as well as data sets in as a result of your search. And you, based on that, you can filter out based on metadata source, publication year, subject, keyword, deposit date, and you can identify your relevant data sets. Once you uncheck the data set, you will have a list of dataverse. So easily you can find out based on, suppose you created or you have a aware about this data set is available in ISER Bhopal or Anna University, you directly jump to the particular dataverse of that particular institute and you can find out the relevant. Even if you have if you are not aware about the data sets owner or then you can find out based on subject or keyword based. And if you identify any particular data sets, then you can study the name of the or title of the data set, who would be the contributor, what is the persistent URL, description, subject, keywords, how many time it is being downloaded. All the statistics will be available on a dataset page of that particular dataset. Once, and it is organized in a 4 different tabs. So under first tab file, you will have a list of data files available in a raw format. You will have a list of files. It is not only data file, you may have in form of image or PDF also that would be available in that. And that can be downloaded in a VDS format, either in a tab limited R data format or many more support format would be available to be exported from the portal. Even you can view the data set on the browser itself by using view spreadsheet viewer by clicking first option view data, and 2 more data visualization tools just like ToRaven, especially for modeling and statistical analysis on the fly. Once you click, it will be redirected our newly added add-ons or integrated with dataset, and you can explore the statistical model by using ToRaven. And Data Explorer is also data visualization tool. So without having any technical knowledge, you can explore and find out the beautiful insights by using this option. So these two tools already integrated with the NRDR portal. Even you can export the metadata about that deposited data set in a different formats.
just like a doubling board, JSON, DataSite, or OpenAir, many formats which can be exported for your means as per your requirement. Even whatever terms defined to use that or access that data set, that will be available in a third part terms. Even any guestbook assigned to the particular data set, so it will be before downloading, it may ask to you your basic details just like first name, last name, author, email as well as institute detail. So before downloading, it may ask to. So once you assign the guestbook to particular data set, it will before downloading, it will be asked to the end user. And this portal provides the facility to maintain the version control. Just like I have uploaded 4 times this data sets. So what are the when I have uploaded and what are the changes that also would be maintained by the portal. So all types of version control maintained by the portal. So even you can find out the differences between any two versions, just like 3.0 and 4.0 of same data sets. But when it is uploaded and what are the difference between these two, that also would be available by pressing version difference. So you will get the details what are the difference between and when it is uploaded. So it will be maintained automatically by the software itself. So with this brief introduction and demonstration of major key features of institutional coordinator as well as end user point of view, I have just according to time restriction, I have mentioned here very few features. Many more features are available for this NRDR. With this brief introduction about of NRDR, I conclude my presentation here. You please feel free to ask the question related to any of the session, all the 4 sessions, and I hope I already covered the questions of Dr. Taru Rupali. She asked already whether we upload the data set on DataSite or not. So DataSite provides the DOI for your datasets, but datasets you may upload either in NRDR or your own data repository.
Hitesh, I think your session is over. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hitesh, for such a wonderful presentation on NRDR. Now, if anybody is having a question on any of the topic, you may raise your hand, or you may post in a chat directly. The first question was raised by PK Chaudhary sir about NDA SAP that I answered. Then the next question was to Pallav, and he has already responded. Then third question is also by Pallav. He has responded to in chat box. I think most of the questions are responded, right? Is anybody is having a question? See one Veerbhadra ji, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
He is not able to unmute. It is locked.
Now I sent a request. Unmute yourself, sir. Veerbhadra ji.
I think he is not there.
Anybody?
Yeah, there is a question, Divakant, that how to create a research data repository, which are the suitable softwares for creating repository by Swati. So in the past beginning session itself, there was the presentation of Sri Dinesh Kumar, it was there that there are many softwares available open source like CCAN, DCAN, Dataverse, InVenue, RDM, and lot many softwares are there. So you need to define your own set of goals that how you are want to have your data repository. Based on that, you can utilize the software.
Any other person? Otherwise, we will end the session. Okay, then fine. Now it's time to conclude the session. Thanks to all the speakers, my colleagues, Dinesh Pradhan, Mr. Dinesh Pradhan, Dr. Mitesh Kumar Pandya, Mr. Pallab Pradhan, Mr. Hitesh Solanki for such a wonderful presentation. Thanks to director, thanks to DataSite, and dear distinguished participants, thanks to you all for listening us and attending this training webinar. Thank you one and all. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.